Let's talk about Pacers Bucks, Logan, because this game was incredible. Incredible. Still no Giannis on the floor through 3 games, which is obviously concerning for the Bucks, but this one goes to OT. We get a Khris Middleton masterclass. The Pacers come through. Tyrese Haliburton game winner, Logan. Should we just start with that? I mean, what's your take on that shot? How Hallie played, how huge that was?
I don't think people are going to give Hallie enough credit for what he did in this game, man. You cannot take Tyrese Haliburton for granted. I want to be clear about something. I don't think he's at 100%. Like, he is struggling to get downhill, create separation, or anything for himself. But Tyrese Haliburton just always makes the right decision, man. I love his game. I love his game so much. And I said this from the jump when the Kings drafted him, man. It was on the tape. It was like, if he's not scoring, if he's not doing jack shit else, he is going to make a good decision, and he's going to get the ball where it needs to go. He is a consummate great decision maker, and he is so unselfish. He goes 1 of 12 from deep in this game. He goes 8 of 22 from the field, and yet he ends up with 18 points, 10 boards, and 16 assists, and he is a team best and game best plus 16 and plus minus. He is always going to make the right decision, and I stress this with Jokic, right? The Nuggets around Jokic always make the right decision. They play so unselfishly around him, and they are looking to make the extra pass on a good shot to generate a great shot. And you see it down the stretch in this one. When they kick it to Nesmith in the corner down the stretch, they pass up a good shot for a great shot. And if you mess up defensively, the Pacers are going to make you pay. And I just don't want to take that for granted. He has 16 assists in this game. Sure, that's awesome, man. He could have had way more. Haliburton is always going to make the right decision, and this team embodies it around him. How hard they play around him, the energy and effort they give, and the great decision-making and unselfish play, man. Like, the Pacers buy into the way Haliburton plays ball, and I thought that was evident all the way down in this game, man. And the other crucial thing was, I just thought Indiana just straight up out-hustled the old Bucks, man. 32-15 in second chance points. They get beat 19-11 in offensive boards, 4-0 in that overtime period. I didn't know what was going on, man. I'm on the treadmill, and I think my video's skipping, man. The guy, the commentator keeps going, rebound by Nembhard. Rebound by Nembhard. Rebound by Nembhard. I was like,
and by the way, Haliburton missed after every one of those also.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, wait a second, man. Do I got to reboot? Do I got to reboot my phone? 3 back-to-back rebounds. I think their effort was exemplified by Nembhard in overtime, man. Great ball movement every possession down, and the Bucks just don't feel like they can keep up with the Pacers without Giannis. This is a patchwork defense. They don't have enough athleticism, and I don't think they have enough youth, man. The Bucks look tired. Like, the Bucks look whooped. Are they ready and conditioned enough to go on a playoff run? I don't know. That's one of my big takeaways too, man, is if they don't get Giannis back, the Bucks goose is cooked. But they get out-hustled. They get out-executed, and I thought the Pacers' ball movement, effort, and energy was off the chain in this one, man. Big prop to Haliburton, to Nembhard, to Miles Turner, whole Pacers squad, man. This is a good team win here for Indiana, and is what you got to do, man. No Giannis, you got to make the most of all of these games, and they are steadily staving Milwaukee off. They're handling business. This is what you got to do when the other team's superstar is out.
This was a very interesting game because Indiana came out of the gate and it was just like, well, this is a good old-fashioned thrashing. Like, they are going to dominate. And then Milwaukee clawed back in. I actually thought the second half was the best defensive effort that we've seen from Milwaukee in the postseason so far. And then they just had ridiculous shot making from Khris Middleton. It's one of those awesome games where you just have answer after answer after answer. Big shot in the clutch, big shot in the clutch, big shot in the clutch. Pressure is constantly on, and these guys are just delivering. So much fun. And Hallie comes through with the big one at the end. And it was an up and down game for him because at the start, the Pacers were humming primarily because of him. Like, guys were knocking down shots. The ball movement was awesome. And I legitimately think it's so infectious playing with a lead star like a Haliburton, like a Jokic, who is so fundamentally unselfish. Like, I think it just opens guys' eyes to playing basketball that way, and it's such a positive for the team offense as a whole. But out of pick and roll, he was just making perfect decisions, as you say, creating open 3 after open 3, if that was to the popper, if that was a skip pass. And he had a couple of aggressive takes too, which I love to see, because Hallie was very passive in those first 2 games. He took 17 combined shots, and he's still a really good offensive player because he's still drawing defensive attention and he's making great decisions. He's creating open looks, but I did want to see him be at least a bit more aggressive, get more into the teeth of the defense, trust his own shot a bit more. And in this game, he did, even though he had a really rough night from deep. He only shot 1 of 12 from the perimeter. I particularly liked him getting downhill. Brook was out of position and dropped one time. It just led to a nice open runway to the rim for Hallie. But in the second half, it was a lot more of a struggle. And that's where we saw like just the clear lack of explosiveness that has been an issue for him post hamstring. It's the reason that he took such a huge dip in production and efficiency, because he was a super efficient isolation scorer early in the year and then just wasn't really as it progressed. And you see that in this game where he's trying to target Damian Lillard, bad defender, and he loses the ball, turns it over, can't get a step. In another instance, takes a really tough jumper against him, gets a really tough shot against Connaughton out of isolation. So like that just was not a good approach because he couldn't get a step on those guys, which is why I loved so much what he did on that game winner, where there's 6 seconds on the clock. He catches the ball in the backcourt, knowing that they're not going to pressure him there, just so he has a full head of steam, a massive runway, because he's not getting a step on these guys in the half court to get to that high pick and roll. They set a nice high screen for him, and then it's boom, I'm coming downhill with speed, one cross by Pat Bev, and he got the best shot that he had gotten in a while. That was fantastic. And what I loved, Logan, is that post-game he said, just give me the ball. I'm going to win this game. I love seeing that from Hallie, because the one thing you can say is that at times he can be too selfless, which is kind of a cliche, and normally it's not really true, but it can be true with him. Like I think it was true in game 1. Like Hallie, you had to do more in that spot. I love that mentality. And I just can't wait for next season when Hallie's right again, because he's not the guy who we saw at the start of this season. And I don't think that was some fluke. I think clearly the hamstring injury changed everything, because he's not as quick. And also just his jumper has consistently been worse than it was. This guy has been such an unbelievable shooter throughout his career and was on like a historic start to this season. And I think, again, the shot diet becoming tougher because he can't get by people. It's just really impressive what he's still doing. And I think once he is the level of scorer that we know that he can be, and he's healthy again and he's in rhythm next year, he's the perfect guy to play with. Legitimately, he is the perfect dude to play with. And it is fun to watch a great pick and roll operator who is so pass first. Like, you know, they can take over as a scorer. Hasn't been as true post hamstring, but they choose to create great shots for their teammates. It's very Nash-esque. And that's what we were all so excited about. And you get flashes of that in this game, especially early and then ultimately in the clutch coming through.
That's what's so frustrating about this from Haliburton is a lot of people, Carson, I don't know if you've seen them, like taking victory laps on Hallie. Like,
I know.
Hallie could never score. Hallie can't create for himself. And it's like, dude, he was like the second best pull-up jump shooter in basketball pre-injury. He is an elite.
25 and 12 on whatever, like 63% true shooting.
He's an elite shooter. He's an elite playmaker. And it's like these guys are, oh, man, he can't create off the bounce. He gets no separation. He's got an ugly jump shot. It's like he's just not at 100%. How are you celebrating, oh, I was right on Haliburton? He's not that good. He's a monster, first of all. And second of all, just this is not the time to be making – it's like taking a victory lap on Embiid because he's played down. And the dude just dropped 50 points. It's just dumb, man. It's stupid to me the way people are going to celebrate themselves. You're not right on this take. Haliburton's a monster. And again, the fact that Embiid can drop 50 points at 75%, the fact that Haliburton can do this at 80% or whatever he's at is insane. He is still generating such high shot quality for his teammates. And it's the little things, man. That's why I think Haliburton gets taken for granted so much. Like creating little advantages for his teammates where they get a mismatch. And the fact now that they have Pascal Siakam on this team, it's invaluable. Like there are so many possessions in this game where he gets a smaller guard switched onto him and Siakam just goes up with it. He is a mismatch for guards, and then he is a mismatch for wings. He's too big and strong for wings. Even Bobby Portis was struggling with him, and he's too fast for these guys, and then he's too big and strong for guards. They just got nothing for him. And crucially, in this series, when they have Siakam just out there on the floor, point blank period, when they get out in transition, it's hard to stop him, man. He is so much faster than all these Milwaukee Bucks just getting down the floor. I want to give a big credit to him, man. He's had an awesome series, and it's a little bit of a down game from him in this one compared to what he was doing in game 1 and 2, but still attacking mismatches, still getting to his spots, still making plays. That's just what's been so frustrating, man. I've just seen a lot of takes online circulating that I was right on Haliburton. He's not this number one offensive guy. And to me, he clearly is.
It's frustrating because a single playoff series can become the be-all, end-all, and people don't consider factors like health, which is clearly a significant factor here. But I'm confident in the offensive superstar that he is and that he showed us that he was when he was at 100% this year. And Siakam is the perfect partner in crime, and Siakam has been clearly their best player in this series. He wasn't in this game, and that's part of why this is such an impressive win from Indiana, is because the supporting cast stepped up in such a big way. But I just made a video on Siakam because this man was leading the playoffs in scoring in terms of points per game coming into this one. He had been a mismatch nightmare, way too quick for Brook Lopez, and Brook is conceding too much ground, and he's just nailing these mid-range jumpers. He's killing him with the pick and pop, and then bullying Middleton and Crowder and whoever he got off a switch with those turnaround jumpers, bullying cross matches in transition, getting on the floor quickly. That's what he was doing in the first 2 games. This one, I thought Milwaukee did a much better job on him. Portis, I think, matched up better physically without conceding such a significant quickness advantage and having to give him so much room to just comfortably step in to those mid-range looks. And even on a couple switches, Pat Bev, Connaughton, those guys held up better. They forced him into a couple of tougher shots. I thought that they were smart with timing their doubles, and his jumper also just wasn't on like it has been. And they guarded Hallie well. And I thought Milwaukee got back in transition better in the second half. They were just better across the board defensively. They rotated more sharply. They forced more tough late shot clock looks. And so that's how they were able to dig back into that game after they've been really quite bad defensively overall. But I do just want to give props to this Indiana supporting cast because you mentioned the effort element of it. That is huge. 19 offensive boards. Only 1 is from their center. Hallie gets 5, was doing an awesome job of following his own shot, had the putback dunk in this game. Siakam had 4, including that huge offensive rebound at the end of regulation that really should have ended the game then and there if he had made his free throw. Nembhard, 3, and effectively 4 because he drew a foul fighting for positioning on the offensive glass in another instance. And also just had a big step back mid-range jumper when they needed a bucket in the clutch. He was super efficient in this game, knocked down his jumpers. That guy is really good. And Nesmith, even though it was an off shooting night, hits a huge 3 to put them up in overtime before Middleton hits another ridiculous 3, but also does that at the end of the shot clock, sidestepping to adjust to a pass. That was a big time shot, and he grinded defensively. He had 4 offensive rebounds. So just a really, really strong effort from the supporting cast. But Miles Turner was the star of the show for Indiana. And he has been such a good offensive weapon in this series. 29 points in this game, and was doing it in a variety of ways. Pick and pop with Hallie was awesome, as we know. But he also had some really good moments as a roller, drawing fouls. He hit a step back 3 on the first possession of the game, which was kind of ridiculous. He hit multiple spot up 3s in the corner, which is just a rare thing to see from your 5. He's been really, really good these last 2 games. Game 1, he was getting good shots, but he just wasn't making them. These last 2 games, he's been really quite excellent. And Hallie just feeds into his game so perfectly. I looked at his stats with Hallie this year. He averages almost 18 a game on 64% true shooting. Without him, even as they're down, their offensive number 1, his production goes down to 14 points per game, and his efficiency goes down to 55% true shooting. So he is getting fed good looks out of pick and roll by Hallie. But he was making them in this game, and that was really, really clutch because Hallie's shot making wasn't on from the perimeter, and Siakam wasn't the dominant force that he had been. And that Milwaukee offense was producing because of the ridiculous stuff that we saw from Middleton and Dame giving you at least enough.
And he's primarily a a problematic matchup in this series because you have a guy like Brook Lopez on the other side of the ball. Without Giannis out there, it completely defeats the Bucks' ability to even run, remotely close to that drop where you can drop everybody. And specifically Indiana, when you have a floor spacing 5 like Turner, you can run 5 out. It causes nightmares for Milwaukee. Like they can't.
It is by design what drop coverage concedes. The number one thing that it concedes is pick and pop looks.
And
that's what Miles Turner does.
And Turner's done a great job, too, of not only knocking down those open looks, but when Brook comes out there, he's giving him diverse stuff. He's not always pulling it. He's pumping it and then driving back into the lane and generating another wide open look. Like, the drive and kick game is killing Milwaukee, man, and they are just not designed to – this offense is designed to pick apart what Milwaukee does defensively. They're not good defensively. They haven't been good defensively. They are atrocious without Giannis, and it is – killing them, man. I mean, it is they're just getting obliterated, man. Indiana is running an offensive clinic, it feels like, every possession down, man, and it's on Milwaukee to really just keep up on the other end.
Yeah, but again, the second half was better. The first quarter was brutal. They just got absolutely dogged there, and they have been quite bad. Even game 1, when Indiana's offense didn't produce, it was because they missed a ridiculous number of wide open looks from deep. This second half was the first time when I thought, okay, they've actually battened down the hatches here. They're dialed in. They're playing connected. Now, they still do just have personnel limitations. They're old. They're slow. Brook can't guard in space. All of that is very real. I think this Milwaukee defense is bad, but that was a better stretch from them. I do want to give props, though, to Khris Middleton for keeping them in this game because he was unbelievable. It was tough bucket after tough bucket. And I honestly thought Aaron Nesmith was pretty awesome on him. Like, Aaron Nesmith is a really good perimeter defender, and he was getting up in his airspace. He was being physical with him, but it's that Middleton special. It's the thing that has made him an all-star in this league and has always made him so captivating to watch. He's one of the greatest contested shot makers ever, and every shot that he takes basically is contested. He just shoots over you. And that's what he did in this one. It's step backs, it's turnarounds, runners, spot up looks from mid-range even, like barely any shots at the rim, and then just a couple of, oh my goodness, shots. The game-tying 3 in regulation, which is so reminiscent of that shot that he hit against Boston in 2018 when he had like an unbelievable offensive series, could not miss his pull-up jumpers throughout that series. And then he banks the one in an overtime, which probably lucky, probably not what he meant to do, but he still hit it. Like, that was really, really big time stuff. And he made some nice reads. And of course, it's only 3 games, and these numbers are now inflated by him dropping 42, but he's averaging 27, 8, and 5 on 64% true shooting in this series. Getting that version of Khris Middleton is massive. Like, he's just been something of an unknown because of availability, I would say, is the most significant thing. But seeing him also rise to this sort of offensive load without Giannis on the floor has been really, really impressive to me. And it's fun to see. And I always love when guys who are a little bit past their prime turn back the clock. It's not like Middleton is old, but we've just seen so little of him in these high stake situations over the last few years since the title run that this was a really nice vintage performance from him. And Dame had an interesting game where he had like a stretch of big time shot making, step back threes, but overall it was a rough night for him from the field, but he still got his 28 because he got to the line a bunch. And it was a classic Dame foul baiting on like damn near every jumper performance. I tweeted about this. I really think he gets like an all-time pass for being, to me, the number 1 foul baiter on jump shots that we have seen. Like, Harden is obviously the perimeter player who has baited the most fouls, and they do it in different ways. Harden would kick his leg out, but like Harden, it's so much about the rip through on the drive and whatnot. Dame is the guy who I associate with pump fake, jump into a defender, try to get a foul call, do that like so much. And in this game, it's like, if there's any contact, he's selling it, including on a really big shot with like 40 seconds to go in regulation, and he misses trying to get a foul call. He was just very reliant on the threes and the free throws. 12 threes, 12 free throws. To me, that's not the best formula because it speaks to the fact that he's not getting to the rim, which we know has been an issue this year. And it seems like his Achilles is aggravated.
Yeah.
He leaves the game for a little bit with an injury. And Doc came out and said, I think it's his Achilles. So that's not good. You obviously can't have Dame anything but 100% when you're down Giannis. And even if and when Giannis comes back, like, who knows if he'll be at 100%. The Bucks really can't catch a break.
Yeah, and without Giannis, there's really no margin for error. Bigger foul grifter on jump shots, Damian Lillard or Austin Reeves?
Austin Reeves is carrying the next generation. He's a pretty good one. Dame has so many more free throws off jumpers in his career. I just have to give respect to the GOAT. I have to give props to the longevity there, but they're both doing it at a really high level. Trae Young is another really good one. Trae Young, of course, kind of the inventor of the jump back into a defender when they're trailing you out of pick and roll, which, of course, then the league basically got rid of. They still call it sometimes, but.
And normally with the referees, man, I feel like the referees reward guys more who don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just inherently have more respect, like, for Devin
in the
Booker.
Playoffs.
Yeah, in the playoffs. Like, Devin Booker does it sometimes too. And just these guys who are, like, deliberately game to game going, hey, man, where's my foul? Where's my foul, ref? It's like, dude, that's a really bad look for you as a basketball player when you're doing that, man. Like, if you don't get the call, just move on, bro. I get pleading your case, but I think it's a bad look. And
I think it may have been a little bit dialed up in this game from Dame, though, because he was like, I don't have anything else. Like, I don't feel right. I don't feel like I can get a step on anybody. So we're just going to try to grift our way to the line. But he always does it.
And it's not only like, it's not only like affecting his skill ability too. I really wonder if it's affecting Dame's conditioning. Like, I just think it's really hard on him, and it could just be a byproduct of him getting older. Like, I think it's just really hard on Dame doing this for 4 straight quarters, and especially late in games when you're asking him to carry this load at this kind of age. It's just tough on him, man. And big shout out to Khris. Carson, that's a guy's game who you just can't take away. It's like a big middle finger to you. It's, if my jumper's hidden, sorry. You can put all the hands you want in my face. You can do whatever. I'm going to hit it. And it's how it felt. We shouldn't be surprised. Like, we had his questions about his injuries and how many minutes per game he was getting. Khris Middleton was still the most efficient mid-range jump shooter in all of basketball this year on a pretty good volume. He's just like that. That's what I wrote in my notes, man. He's a tough bucket getter. That's just what Khris Middleton does, man. That is his game. And it is beautiful to see in these playoffs. And if we get Giannis back, say what you want about the defense, man. They're going to have just, damn, man, some scary, scary offensive pop with this big three, man. And they all really complement each other. You know what I mean? Giannis is the rim guy who's going to collapse the defense and be your lead. Lillard, we've seen in these 3 games, may not be the most consistent quarter to quarter, can get hot and have his stretches, has dominated, really 3 halves of basketball, where he has a slow start in this one, has a much better second half, and the first 2 games crushes the first half. And if you're getting Middleton at this level, it's one of the highest offensive punches in the playoffs. But it's all contingent on Giannis coming back and being what he is, man. That's the sad reality for Milwaukee.
I do want to give some props to crazy ass Bobby Portis, because he's been producing. He damn near has a 2020 game in this one. And it's, again, just like that combination of size and pretty good skilled shot making. Brook also was actually rolling some in this game. He wasn't rolling hard, but he was getting to his little floaters and whatnot. He played fine offensively. Like, the offense they've produced, even against a bad Indiana defense, has been pretty solid. It has been very reliant on old dudes making pretty much tough shots, making a lot of jumpers, but it's also old dudes who have kind of made a living off of doing that. And so they are producing there. And that's where I have mixed feelings about what we're seeing from the Bucks right now. It's like Middleton playing at this level is super encouraging. Dame playing at the level he did through the first 2 games is encouraging, but now you question if he's going to be the same guy going forward, if he is dealing with this injury. And of course, part of it has just been great shot making from these guys. It's not like they're getting great shots, but they are really good shot makers. So it's been good to see both of them like step up, carry this load, deliver. But then I just think about how this whole team looks without Giannis. And I broaden the scope beyond just, okay, can he come back and they survive the Indiana Pacers? And I think about where they're at as a team, and I just feel bad for the guy. Like, I just think there's so many glaring flaws here, and you see it all in the first half. They're old, they're slow, They're struggling to defend mightily. There is a glaring lack of athleticism, rim pressure, quickness on the perimeter for point of attack defense. Just anybody other than Giannis who can get downhill, who can make dynamic athletic plays. Shout out Andre Jackson had a crazy block in this game, but he's not exactly the guy we're talking about. And it's just a bit discouraging. I don't want to count them out from winning this series, but like, this team isn't contending. They're obviously not getting out of the East. They're obviously not beating Boston. Even with Giannis back, they're just too old, slow, and poor defensively. And that just really sucks because this is one of the 20 greatest players that we've seen, still in the heart of his prime. And last year you lose first round because of a combination of Giannis getting hurt and then Heat voodoo magic, but also just the shortcomings of the supporting cast then. And you go all in for a guy like Dame, and it seems like a home run trade. And he hasn't been the level you expected. But more importantly, more than Dame to me, it's just about the entire construction of this team. It's about still having Brook Lopez as a core guy here. Middleton balled out in this one, but like, would be nice to have some more athleticism on the wings from somewhere. I just don't like where they're at. I think they need major changes, even with Giannis. The window with this core has closed, and I think I've been too high on the Bucks for the last 2 years, and I've kind of held out on that because of how special Giannis is. And it's like, oh, maybe when they get healthy, maybe when it's all coming together. But teams this old and slow just don't win, man. And they've been this old and slow for 2 years now, but it's really, really hitting at this point.
The first guy I would get rid of would be Brook Lopez. And if Giannis comes back healthy, it empowers them to play Brook more because he covers up for a lot of Brook's deficiencies. But I would maybe think about running Bobby Portis at the 5, Giannis at the 4 when he comes back, just for like, one of the frustrating things about Brook too is he pops so much and he is so away from the basket oriented at this portion of his career. He's never in the paint for rebounds. So any shot that goes up near the round, it's like you were just
they're not a good offensive rebounding team.
You're taking a big body away from the paint when the other team is always going to have that guy down there. So you're always at a disadvantage on the glass. He's not athletic. He's not a great rim deterrent anymore. He's not an elite shooter. Like, Brook would be the first guy that I move on from in favor of somebody more athletic, more interior inclined, period, that can just hold it down for me down there. You know, for a while, he gave them that dimension of, I can get hot and splash mountain. And we saw it in this series. What, he made 6 threes in one game? I mean, we've seen it, but I think there's a lot more negatives that come with Brook. The transition aspect that, you know, I think they do need to dramatically retool, man. And to me, it starts with moving on from Brook. Honestly, Middleton's a guy that I can see aging pretty gracefully. You know, he's not going to do this every single night, but his game's not predicated on athleticism. His game's predicated on, hey, man, I'm going to get to my spot and knock down my shot. So I'm a little more optimistic that we can see Middleton, Lillard, and Giannis do something. But I think it starts with dumping Brook and getting younger, getting more athletic. It's kind of like the Suns, man. I don't really like their prospects no matter what. But
at least they have Giannis, though. At least they have a top 3 dude on the planet.
True. That's their saving grace. It's really just him, man. It's been pretty ugly without him there on the floor. But Brook's the first guy that I'm kind of tossing to the wolves and moving on from.
Brook has been super important to this Milwaukee team over the years, like especially their peak defensive seasons. But he's still a good pure deterrent around the rim, but he's so slow in space at this point. And it's also a problem that they're so much weaker on the perimeter. And so he's having to deal with more penetration than ever before. That sounded a bit strange out of the mouth, but you guys know what I mean. So, yeah, and just like the complete lack of any sort of vertical spacing at this stage. He can still pick and pop. He can still purely defend the rim, but he's too old. He's not the level of player they need him to be. Ultimately, I don't buy into Middleton as a third guy on a title team at this stage, and he's not getting better. He's not getting healthier. Like, I just think they got to really, really retool here, man. I think they need to make some big changes because they're all in on the Dame and Giannis duo, and Dame has to consistently be better than he was throughout this regular season for that to work alone. But then you need to get more athletic, just period, point blank. I think that applies to the 5 spot. I think that applies to the wings as well. We'll see how they approach that. It's not a death sentence for them, but without Giannis, I don't think they have much of a chance in this series. Obviously, this was a really competitive game, but what Indiana was doing felt so much more sustainable. Their best guys didn't even play their best in this game. than Middleton, as great of a difficult shot maker as he is, going berserk like he did in this one. And I'm worried about seeing Giannis. I thought he'd miss the first couple games. Once you're talking about going 3 deep and you're down 2-1, like that's kind of the time where it's like, all right, if you can play, you're going to play. And I do expect him to play, but we'll see. If he doesn't, what a bummer. That sucks. So I guess we'll end on that low note, Logan.